Hello, I'm Dolly Malik and thank you so much for tuning into my channel. And in this short video, I wanted to discuss the topic of love, the purest energy of all. I thought since February is fast approaching and then love is in the air, right? Valentine's Day won't be that far away. And in this short video, I wanted to basically share with you 3 quick tips to guarantee pure love in 2024. Plus a bonus tip. So do please stick around until the end because that is vital to understanding the 3 tips that I'm about to share with you. And this is guaranteed to bring you the purest love in 2024 or whichever time that you're actually tuning into this video. So are you someone who is tired of attracting the same type of person, or you have friends who have attracted the same kind of people and they're kind of like, why do I always fall for that same person? Why do I get myself into this? I've had clients that come to me with very similar dilemmas, and that is where I'd like to move on to tip number 1. Tip number 1 starts with the self. So in terms of some of the statements I've just mentioned, I don't know if you've been in that position or you've witnessed others in that position who say, why do I always go for that wrong type? I know they're bad for me, but I still go for them, right? And then they're really disappointed when it never lasts. It's almost like a repeating cycle, which an individual knows. So if that's someone you know, or if that's yourself, tip number 1 is all about going inwards into the self. And what I would suggest as part of a tool for tip number 1 is to write down, to write down all the attributes that you actually want in terms of loving yourself. Just everything that you would really want, not in terms of any kind of materialistic things, but what you would really want within your heart and soul. So a further tip around this is to go into a quietened room away from everyone and either maybe meditate or possibly do some breath work just to calm down your different emotions and energies, just to balance everything out, and then to just really get into that state of mindfulness in the presence and listen to that inner voice of what you truly would like when it comes to love. So that's tip number 1, looking inwards to yourself, self-love. Moving on to tip number 2, where the other person in the equation comes into the scene. So similar to tip number 1 in terms of self-reflection, again, spend some time quietened down with no one around you, no influences, no chatter from friends or whoever to say, oh, I think we should be going out with this type of person, or I think you should get into a relationship with someone like this. Why do you always go into this mess every time? Quieten the noise around you. And tip number 2 is to actually write down what you would want in an ideal partner, that person that you want to experience that true love with. Now, once again, it doesn't necessarily have to relate to the material side of things, although goals in the material world are important in terms of where you would want to see a particular type of person from a career or goal achieving perspective. But don't be so specific in terms of I must want a doctor, or I must want a lawyer, or I must want to date someone who's X foot high and absolutely gorgeous or superbly handsome, or just, less of the actual outer and more of the inner is really a good place to start. Then moving on to tip number 3, and tip number 3 does actually relate to tips 1 and 2 that we've just discussed. And it's almost like doing sort of a cost balance business exercise, really, because on the one side of the scale, you've got your self-love and what you want to see towards a relationship. And in tip 2, you put down what you would like to see in terms of your ideal partner giving you that true love, right? So tip number 3 is to evaluate the 2 lists and see how close or how far off they both are. And if you find that there's quite a number of gaps between the 2, reevaluate whether it's something that's lying within yourself that you feel that deserves further self-development, or whether it's something where you're seeing certain patterns that are very similar to your past failed relationships. So really tip number 3 is all about evaluating yourself versus your ideal partner. And I would also suggest that if it's a case of you wanting, where there's a gap more in terms of yourself versus where you would like to be in attracting that ideal partner, then take time out from needing to be in any kind of dating game or relationship, and do that self-investment in terms of loving yourself and bridging that gap within yourself towards what you actually truly want. That has to be a much better investment of your time, your emotions and your energy than quickly going from one relationship to another without that self-evaluation that ultimately ends up with pretty much a repeated cycle of what you've been through that didn't work before. So I hope those 3 tips helped you. And moving on to the bonus tip, tip number 4, which is basically that once you've reached that state of equilibrium in tip number 3, tip number 4 is about making space for a relationship or another person's love to come into your heart. It may sound a bit corny, or it may sound a bit wacky and out there, but in reality, you have to evaluate and make space. So let go of any past resentments from relationships that didn't work, or equally let go of past relationships that you've been desperately trying to cling on to, that were hoping that you'd return back to, that had ended. You can't let in the purest of love if you don't make space for it within your heart. And hopefully you'll discover that what you want from your self-love is what you will ultimately attract, because what you project out there is what you will reflect back inwards to yourself. So they're my 3 + 4 bonus tip on guaranteeing pure love in this year. I wish you all the best in your journey of love. It's a beautiful energy to have, an absolutely positive and uplifting energy, and I'm wishing you all lots of love from me to you. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already subscribed, I really would appreciate if you could do so. And please do like and comment down below in terms of whether you found the content useful, if you've got any other tips around attracting love as well, as it will all be helpful to people out there who are looking for it. And do please share the content with those as they are, possibly struggling or maybe dreading the thought of Valentine's Day coming and everyone feeling all loved up. Just make them feel that they are special in themselves.